Okay, that's part one of a three-phase blues in C that I'm going to show you with an alternating bass. And I want to just want you to see in the evolution of these three videos, these three versions of the same blues in C, how you can evolve your blues in C from being just a straight alternating bass to adding in some embellishments and dropping out your bass from time to time, which will happen in the third phase. This is sort of how things would happen in a blues tune that was written pre-war blues, kind of ragtimey blues kind of thing. You would the first version I just played just now is pretty straightforward with no embellishments, and it sounds okay. But you really want to be able to add in the extra stuff to create your own blues verses. So first off, let me run through this first verse. Blues in C, there's three chords. We have C, F, and I'll be using the thumb over the top of the neck to fret the sixth string, and G7. Okay, so you should be familiar with those chords before you start this lesson. C, F, thumb over the top, and there's some lessons about playing a thumb over the top. In fact, a new lesson that I just posted recently about doing some exercises playing alternating bass with the thumb over the top fretting the sixth string for your F chord, and G7. Okay, so first four bars, alternating bass on my C chord. I'm traveling between the fifth and fourth string. You might notice this is one of these two measure patterns that I've come up with in some of my earlier blues lessons. 1, 2, 3, and 4. 1, 2, and 3, and 4. That's my first two bars. And the rhythm 1, 2, 3, and 4. 1, 2, and 3, and 4 is pretty much going to repeat itself throughout this whole 12-bar blues. My second two bars, it's the same rhythm, but I'm choosing to play different strings. In the third measure, bass, pinching fourth and third string. 5, 2, 4. Okay, so you have your alternating bass and notes being played on the beat and in between the beats. So let me play that first four bars again slowly. 1, 2, 3, 4. Then I'm going to move to my F chord. Now this thumb over the top F chord is particularly convenient if you're coming from a C. You can leave your first finger where it is, move these two fingers over so they're on the fourth and third strings, and then just bring your thumb up. If you've been playing C with your thumb over here, it's really not much of a shift. Okay. So again, if you're having problems with this F over the top, thumb over the top making an F, look at the mini lesson on the F chord. So the two bars of F I'm going to play like this. 1, 2, 3, 4. Not too much to say about that other than try to keep that clean sound on that F as much as you can. Part of it is independent of the fingers. You want to make sure your index finger can flatten out while these two fingers are bending at the knuckles. Your first finger is straight and these other two fingers are bent at the first knuckle. We come back to C. When we come to the last four bars here, we're going to change the chord every measure. So this is going to might be a little bit of a challenge for you who are a little slow to change chords, but it's a be good practice because you will see this in a 12 bar. So we come to G7, alternating my bass between the 6 and 4 string. Continuing with my finger picking pattern, but moving chords, I'm going to F, back to C, and then to G7. So let me play that again slowly, just the full 12 bars. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, this is the second layer for our blues in C. The chord changes are all the same, using the same chord, C, F with that thumb over the top, and G7. But I'm adding embellishments this time. A lot of pinky use here. You'll see, if you're making your standard C chord, you'll see that right in the first measure, I'm going to drop my pinky onto the third string to play the D note at the third fret on the second string. So that pinky will come on and off in those first two bars. 1, 2, 3, and 4. 1, 2. So the pinky's coming on and off. We're keeping alternating bass. But we're kind of having to have the pinky move around with us. Then in the third bar, I add a hammer-on in. So hammering on, you're just keeping that C chord intact, and you flick your pinky down after you pluck that second string first fret. And then in the next measure, I move my pinky to the first string. Okay, so we got a lot of nice little melodic movement going on in there in those first 4 bars. Let's compare it with our first version of the 12 bars. So here's the first version we had. Here's our new version. Okay. Then we move to our F chord. Same version of the chord that we used before, but again, our pinky is going to be involved here. Right off the bat, pinky's going to land on the first string, third fret, and we'll do a pull off. The second measure of the F here, this is in measure 6 of the whole thing. You'll notice I'm doing a hammer-on from the first fret to the second fret on the third string. Okay, so now, when I was making my F chord before, I was just barring 2 strings. But now I'm making sure I'm barring 3 strings for my F chord. Okay, so this is a good move because this will allow you actually to play a lot of songs that, like from 4 until 8, that go from an F to an F minor. So you want to be able to bar 3 strings. 2 bars of F. Let me play that again. So I had a pull off and a hammer on. then my pinky also grabbed the second string, third fret. So that might take a little bit of work, that F. I'm really kind of grabbing that F chord pretty solidly to make sure all those notes sound. I'm back to C, and this time I'm going to do a hammer-on the second string first fret. Notice how the melody ascends. Those are just the melody notes. With the bass, okay, so hammer-on, just like we discussed before. This time you're doing it with your first finger. Now, last 4 bars, again, we're going to move from chord to chord. Every measure has a different chord. I'll start off with my G7, but I'm really going to set up with a G, but have the index finger behind it because I'm going to do another pull-off. And remember, you're just going to flick with that pinky to get that pull-off. Straight to our F chord. Same hammer-on that we did before, and then pinky movement up to the 3rd fret on the 2nd string. Back to C. G7. Let me play that whole 12 bars slowly. 1, 2, 3, 4. So as you, hopefully you can see in here, it's getting a lot more interesting from our first phase to this phase that I just played just now. First phase, remember, was okay, phase 3 of my blues in C. I've moved from playing straight up alternating bass all the way through to adding ornaments, which was phase 2. And now I'm having the bass kind of drop out from time to time. So this is along the lines of players like Big Bill Broonzy or Blind Blake, where you'd have the chord more implied than fully played. So for instance, let's look at the first 4 bars. We have our C chord. Okay, in those second 2 bars, the bass drops out. I play this line. Now on the surface that may look like, oh, we just played a single string run, but in fact, it's outlining a C chord. When I come up to the 5th fret on the 2nd string and the 3rd fret on the 1st string, I actually think of this as a partial C chord, an A-shaped C chord. You can play like that. That's the top part of that chord. And then I just move that chromatically down until I get to the 2nd string 1st fret, and that allows me to bring my regular 1st position C chord in. Robert Johnson uses this in From 4 Until Late. Brunsey uses it in Shuffle Rag and some other songs. Okay, come to our F chord. So now, instead of playing a full F, I'm just playing a little single string run, which basically bending that D note up a half step, E flat, which is really kind of signaling F7. And then when it's time to come back to C, I do that same run I did before. So let me play the F into the C. Okay. In the last 4 bars, we're going to change from chord to chord. So here's our G7. Those are all notes of G and G7. We have G, F, which is the 7th, D, which is the 5th, the 3rd, B, and G. And then we come back to our F chord. And this is a little bit more fleshed out version of F rather than like that little hammer-on I did in the chord earlier, in the second phase. So that reflects F, and then back to C. Last 2 bars, I turn around here, I'm going to go back and forth between C and G7. G7. So let me play that again slowly. 1, 2, 3, 4.